It's me, Campbell. Advice, having finished MST, mid-service training. So that's the training you have after 1 year at site. We've learned a lot. You're going to hear from me. You're going to hear from a couple of my fellow volunteers at our training center when we had MST a couple of days ago. I'm filming this a couple days after training. And again, the goal of this series, this is the third video in this series. One was advice after swearing, advice after IST, which is about 3 months after swearing in and going to your site. And then now MST, which is about halfway done. And then we're going to do a fourth one, hopefully, at close of service, which is about 3 months before you leave. So the idea here, again, I've said it in other videos, I'll say it again here. The idea is that you, the audience, can get a better idea of advice. You know, what advice do Peace Corps volunteers have? But this is also a litmus test of what we're thinking about in this moment in our service. Rather than just kind of doing a whole reflection right at the end, because we have different mentalities at different parts of service, and I thought it would be insightful to include that. So we'll start with me, and then we'll go on to the main course, which is the other volunteers. First piece of advice that I have is recognize that it's 2 years of service, but it's not going to be the same thing the whole time. Reflecting on my last year, I've realized that your first year is really, really focused on integration rather than like big projects. What do I mean by that? You're still learning the language. You're still getting to know people. You're still getting to know the area. You're still getting to know like your place in the community in terms of like what are you doing in the community? What is the community doing already? What is it lacking? So, you know, looking back on that first year, do I think like, oh, I didn't accomplish enough? No, because my job, especially during that first year, is to integrate. And so even though I'm not doing these big projects, you know, my language skills have progressed. I'm getting to know people, like I'm getting to know the community more. And that's work too. That shouldn't be taken for granted, which is something that I'm really proud to have learned, because I think I was very like goal-oriented before Peace Corps, and I still am, but like recognizing that goals look differently, especially here. So I think there's that one. And knowing everything that I have going into my second year now, I feel prepared with my relationships, with my language skills, you know, knowing how to write grants, things like that. I feel prepared to go into my second year and gonna hit the ground running. And that was kind of the theme at our mid-service training, MST, that, you know, we got it down, now let's get going. So if you're a year in and you're like, oh, I haven't like accomplished that much, first of all, you're probably underselling yourself, because it's a Herculean effort just to go to a different country for a year, like we're doing. And also recognize that like your second year, you know, it's gonna look different because you know more. You're going through the same 12 months again, but you're not gonna have to learn as much of the basics anymore. You can kind of like get into the nitty-gritty of it. Find the moments to take care of and celebrate yourself. And this may sound like the classic like self-care, take care of yourself stuff that you would hear in the States, and absolutely true, absolutely valuable. It's different here. You are a volunteer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so like you can't like take a break like you normally do. So you have to be really intentional about finding those moments. You know, you might say like, oh, I can just relax in my room like I do in the States. Well, what if you don't have AC? What if it's boiling hot? What if you're feeling sick? What if you're feeling malnourished? You're going to get the same kind of rest that you normally do? No. So you got to find out what works for you here. So for me, you know, I've more and more, I'm kind of taking a weekend off. Like getting away to here, getting away to a hotel with Wi-Fi and AC, you know, eating any modicum of protein is the way that I do self-care. Or like buying snacks for myself. I don't know if I've mentioned this in another video, but I'll say it again here. In my local town, about 7 kilometers away, they have these salt and vinegar Pringles that are way too expensive for me to ever justify buying, and I buy them anyway because I can't really get those kinds of like that self-care and celebration otherwise. So like if I have a hard day, I'm gonna take out my can of salt and vinegar Pringles and I'm gonna enjoy. Whereas like in the States, you know, I would probably like go out with friends or like treat myself to a restaurant. But it's not the same kind of thing here. Celebrating oneself is important for me here. So in my experience in Gambian culture, people don't necessarily compliment you to your face or validate you to your face. They talk about you to other people. They talk about you to your friends. But they won't say like, Haruna, my Gambian name, Haruna, you did such a good job in this, or like, Haruna, we're really happy with this. You're doing great. We're so proud to have you here. They're not saying that. You know, they'll show it and they'll talk about it to your friends. So one way they show it, harken back to my previous vlog when like my family came, that's them showing like we're happy to have you here. But all in all, yeah, find moments to take care of yourself, find moments to celebrate yourself, because unlike when you're close to your support network in the States, you may not necessarily be getting that in your community. So it's really important to like celebrate yourself. This is a huge thing that you're doing. And I think the theme at mid-service training, not just for me, but for the other volunteers as well, is, okay, we know our stuff, let's get moving. You know, we're in the midst of writing our grants, we're gonna get our money, we're gonna get those projects done. Not that everything you do has to be grants. But it's just like, we know the ropes and we're ready to get going. I also can't help but think about, there's a scientific theory, I couldn't place it, I couldn't tell you from where, but the idea that the more novel a place is, the slower one perceives time to move, because you're learning more, so you have to pay attention to more. So this last year was very, very slow because everything was new, because I had to pay attention to everything. Now that I've been here a year, I have a sneaking suspicion things are going to start moving a lot faster, because a lot of things are going to be automatic, because I'm not going to have to like really think about greeting people. You know, it's kind of force of habit now. Like, it's kind of automatic. And that's true of like just other details about traveling, about school. You know, I have a full year of experience at my school, so, you know, I don't have to ask as many questions about that. But that's enough out of me. Let me take you now to my fellow volunteers to get their insight on advice for future volunteers having finished mid-service training halfway through Peace Corps service. Okay, Lydia. So now that we're at MST, what advice would you have for like people applying or new volunteers?
I think that like my new advice would be like when you're in America, you have like small things that you really take joy in America. I would say, like, once you're here, finding new things, like new small things that you take joy in here. So like in America, mine might be like my daily iced coffee. Here, it's like my morning walk that I really care about. Having like small things to like ground you and center you. For new volunteers, I would say one practice that I did before coming here that has really helped me in like maintaining my motivation and inspiration for being here is my friends and family members back home wrote me all letters, and then my friend collected them all and then gave them to me before I left here. And so I brought them with me here, and every time I'm feeling kind of down or lonely, or maybe I miss my friends and family back home, or just feeling sad on that day, or maybe you're getting a little bit unmotivated in your work, I just read back through those letters and those cards that are really sweet, and they just encourage me and help me a lot. So if you go to serve in a country, I would recommend having friends and family members write you letters and then read them while you're here, and that's something you can continually come back to that will help you stay motivated and encouraged throughout your service.
A piece of advice I would have for a potential volunteer would be to really, really lean on your cohort. Even if you guys are not that close to begin with, that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, they are the only other people, quite possibly in the world at that moment, who know exactly what you're going through. And even just having a little bit of courage to reach out and say, hey, how are you? Could open a great friendship. So please be open to communicating with your cohort.
I would say for mid-service right now, I'm thinking a lot about just what I'm thankful for as a Peace Corps volunteer, and about all the people that have, you know, shown me love and been welcoming to me here. And I've also been thinking a lot about how we're reflections of the people who love us best, and how we're reflections of people cut that out. That we're reflections of those around us who love us best. And I was chatting with one of the Peace Corps staff members here, and he was saying how a smile, it never costs a thing. And I think it's important, especially at this time, we're halfway done, to just keep smiling and keep being thankful for those around us.
Yeah.
That's it.
My advice, and just
this is not advice to take lightly.
No. It's serious.
It's serious.
Serious.
But it's not really funny. What you need, what is important is like when you're coming in, treasure the things, treasure the moments that occur as they happen, because now we're a year through and like things are kind of creeping up on us.
It flies
Close
by.
of service is coming sooner than we think. We have projects ending, things like that. And looking back, it's very like nostalgic to think about like even pre-service training and even staging and how much we've grown, but how much we've learned about the culture, but about each other too. So just savor the moments you're in, because later on you're going to really, even though they may seem hard in the moment, you're going to really savor them and wish that they were happening again when you're almost done.
The time you have here is precious. Don't waste it, and enjoy every second.
You're highly welcome.
Highly welcome.
That was chaotic.
I would say that you should bring lots of snacks, because PST is crazy and sometimes you just want something to snack on. And also, fitted sheets are pretty popular among volunteers. Like, we like them. And they're kind of hard to find here. And if you ever need any advice, you can always reach out to any volunteers who are already serving or who have served in the Gambia, because everybody is pretty super cool and we're always happy to help.
I'm coming.
Okay, you just freestyle it and we'll copy you. Ami!
Me?
Ami!
I freestyle it?
No. John Polo will freestyle it. Like, she'll go like this, and then I'll go like this, and then
I'll
Ami
stand
will
really
go up,
straight.
and then you go down, you know, and then you can do like random movements, but we do it in
But
that
we do
order.
it.